We are in 1 Samuel chapter 9. And let me just show you real quickly a break. Now, this is a breakdown of the entire book of 1 Samuel, okay? So those are chapters. Chapter 1 to 7, we are primarily focused on Saul. And then chapter 8, we saw a hint. Chapters 1 to 7, Samuel. And then beginning to chapter 8, we got a hint of Saul's coming. Today, we will actually meet Saul. Later on, we will get into the life of David, which is an extraordinary life. But here's where we're at today. 1 Samuel chapter 9, and I titled it, Finding a King. And so Saul is going to be the first king of Israel. Now, in the event that you haven't been here over the last couple of weeks, let me just bring you up to speed real quickly. The children of Israel have been, they came to Samuel the prophet and they said, give us a king, we want a king. And essentially what they were saying was, we do not want to follow God's lead. We don't want God to be in charge of us, telling us what to do. We want a human king to lead us and to go to battle for us. And it saddened the heart of Samuel, the prophet, but God spoke to him and said, listen to them. We're gonna give them a king. They're asking for a king. We're going to give them what they want, which sounds phenomenal on the surface. But what we will find out is that you do not always want for God to give you what you want. What is much, much better, infinitely better, is for God to give us what we need, not what we want. Or give us what you want, God, not what we want, because what we want is not always the best. And that is the case here with Saul. In fact, God warned the people. He said, we're going to give you a king, but you need to know this. The king you're going to get is going to be a consuming king. Not a giving king. He won't be a servant leader. He's going to consume what you have, including your families. And so we will get into that at a later time. What we're going to see today is a wonderful picture of a young man, the first king of Israel. And he seems to be starting out, as they say, swimmingly. He seems to have a really good head on his shoulders, a good heart in his chest. And so we will see those characteristics today and gather some good info, some encouragement for you and I today. So 1 Samuel chapter 9, and there will be two main divisions. I titled the first one Saul, as you can see, verses 1 to 9. The second main division I titled Seeking, and that's from verse 10 on down to the end of the chapter. And but the first one we will get into here is Saul. So we will be introduced to Saul. And here's what happens in verse 1. There was a man of Benjamin. That's one of the tribes, one of the families of Israel, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphia. What they're doing is the writer is giving us really giving us Saul's family lineage, telling us where he came from the line of the family of the tribe of Benjamin, and these are his family members. His father's name is Kish, and then on down his father and his father and his father. And we're told there in verse 1 that he was a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. A mighty man of power. It's a good way to start out, especially if you are a king. To be a mighty man of power is a good thing, good quality. Well, verse 2 tells us this. I've got some subpoints. Again, if you're not familiar with how this works, I will have on the screen the main division, which is Saul. You can see there verses 1 to 7. But then I give you a subpoint in verse 2. We find out that this guy, Saul, is special. Now, that requires a little bit of clarification, because today, you and I, in our modern vernacular, the word special is not always what it seems or what it originally means. Sometimes we will talk about somebody as being, oh, you're special, meaning, you're not really thinking clearly, or we use it to essentially tell someone you're dumb. That's what that means. However, in this case, it means what it originally meant, and that is that he, in fact, was special. Where did I get that from? Verse 2. And he had a choice. That word choice there means special. He had a choice, and check this out, ladies. He had a choice and handsome son whose name was Shaul or Saul, and it means desired. I mean, we're starting out good here. If you're talking about the first king of Israel, this guy is a mighty man of power. He's a special guy, and he's handsome, and so much so that even his name means desired or desired one. Okay? Sounds we're cooking with Crisco here. This is, okay, God, I like what you're doing here. And then it goes on to tell us about this guy. There was not a more handsome person than he among the children of Israel. From his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. Check that out. He was a mighty man of power. There was no one more, he was special. There was no one more handsome than this guy. And we're even told there in verse 2 that from his shoulders upward, he was taller than any of the people. So as you were walking through Israel and going, okay, who are we going to pick as a king? Here's this guy who's a mighty man of power. There's nobody more handsome, beautiful young man, and he's taller than everybody else. The scene is set. Now he's special, but here's what I like about him. And listen, I'm not jealous or envious at all. He's a special guy. He's handsome. He's tall. That's okay with me. Opposite of me, but that's okay with me. Here's what I like about this guy. Let me put it up here for you. Verses 3 to 9, we find out that this guy, Shaul, handsome, tall. He's a desired one. He's the choice one. He's a servant. Look what it says here in verse 3. Now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, remember Kish is his father's name. The donkeys of Kish were lost. And Kish said to his son Saul, please take one of the servants with you and arise, go and look for the donkeys. So in verse 4, Saul replied, I will go as soon as I pass the boss level. Is that what that says there? No. There seemingly is no hesitation. Notice this, verse 4, so he passed. It means that when his dad said, listen, I want you to get up and I want you to take one of the servants and go look for our lost donkeys, there seemingly is no hesitation. There's no haggling there. Well, you know what? Can I do that in 20 minutes? I just really want to finish this TikTok dance. I'm down to the last move. Can you just give me just a few minutes? Or while I'm talking to my friend or I'm texting with somebody, could you just give me a little bit of time, mom and dad? There's none of that. The individual, Saul, he just gets up and he just goes, evidently. We're not told that there's any kind of pushback, any kind of haggling, any kind of let's make a deal, none of that. He just gets up, and we're told in verse 3, now the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. Verse 4, so he passed through the mountains of Ephraim and through the land of Shalisha Plaza, but they did not find them. Then they passed through the land of Sha'alim, and they were not there. Then he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they did not find them. What do we see there? We see that this man is a servant. In fact, here's what we see about his serving. He was thorough. He was thorough. He was going to find those donkeys no matter what, no matter where it took him. Notice in verse 4, he passed through the mountains of Ephraim. I mean, let's just be real for a moment. How many of us would go looking for a lost animal in the mountains? Especially your dad's donkeys, if your dad had donkeys. We might go to the mountains and look at the mountains and take a quick glance and go, well, I don't see any donkeys. I guess they're not here. And we would keep pushing. This individual, Saul, goes through the mountains of Ephraim, but he also goes through the land of Shalisha, and he doesn't find them there, so he goes on to the land of Sha'alim, doesn't find them there, so he goes on and passes through the land of the Benjamites, and did not find them. He's thorough. Now listen, ladies, let me talk to you primarily for just a moment here. This is not the main point of the study or the chapter or the passage, but I need to make mention of this. It's part of my job. If I do not do this, I'm not being a good youth pastor, okay? You need to, in a few years, you young ladies will be choosing a husband. You'll be looking at husbands, not husbands, but you'll be looking at some young man who wants to take your hand in marriage. And he will go and talk to dad and, can we please, and, all the different things. What you are looking for is an individual that is not just the handsomest man I've ever seen, or the tallest, or a mighty man of valor, or a choice man, somebody that's special. All those things are fantastic qualities. They're fine qualities to find in an individual, especially in a young man. Those are great things. But primarily what you want is to find somebody who is a servant. And what do I mean by servant? You see, there are two different kinds of servants. There are servants who serve others, serve the Lord, serve others. And then there are self-servants, individuals who serve, but they only serve themselves. Guess which one you want, young ladies, as you're considering this young man. You want to look for that quality of a servant that is serving others, serving the Lord. Obviously, that goes without saying, got to be serving the Lord, but then also is willing to serve other people, serve you and serve other people. You want to make sure that he's not just serving himself. That's a selfish individual. You want somebody that's serving, and then when he serves, you want him to serve thoroughly. Start the job, finish the job. Those are great qualities. Those are fundamental, biblical, godly qualities. Those are Christian qualities that an individual should serve and serve thoroughly. You don't want somebody that just does a half-baked job. Starts the job and then, you know what? I'm tired. You know what? Forget it. I don't want to finish this. I'm done. Saul, at this point in his life, and make a little mental note of that, at this point in his life, as we're being introduced to Saul, he's a servant and he serves thoroughly. Young men, I said I was talking primarily to the young ladies for a moment. Young men, what you want to do. So I from time to time, and I'm doing it right now, I just finished up some premarital counseling for a couple, and we got them married, and then I immediately started the next couple premarital counseling. I do that from time to time, and I'll do it for you when you're ready to get married, and it's free. I don't charge. It's a gift to you. Yeah, tips appreciated. I'll have a tip jar there, especially for Josh. But here's something that I do in that counseling. What happens is each of the couple, each person, they purchase their own counseling book. I have my own also. They will read on their own and then answer questions at the end of the chapter on their own, separate from one another. And then when we get together once a week, what we do is we go over those questions. I go over the reading a little bit, point out some things, but then we'll go over the questions. So as the couple is sitting there hearing one another's answers, they're hearing their partner's answers for the first time. As we go through the questions, and okay, what do you have on number 2? And, the young lady will answer, well, this is what I put. And the young man sometimes is looking at her like, what? I didn't know that. Like, what, I didn't know you liked that or wanted that or thought that. And so I'm always telling the young men, make a mental note here. Make a mental note. When the question is asking, do you know what her favorite this and that and the other things are? I always tell the guys, make a mental note. Or you've got a book with a pen in your hand, literally write it down. You need to know what's, so clue in. So I'm talking to the guys now and telling you that being tall, being handsome, being a mighty man, being choice, those are all great things. Those are all great qualities. If you got them, you got them. If you don't, sorry. But what is most important, what is more important than outward appearance is the heart. You serve. You want to serve. You want to serve the Lord and do it thoroughly. We'll talk some more about that, but here's the next thing we find out about his servant's heart, and that is that he is thoughtful. Oh, so thoughtful. Verse 5. When they had come to the land of Zuph, I mean, this guy's going for it. He's like, we're going to find these donkeys, man. When they had come to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant who was with him, come, let us return, lest my father cease caring about the donkeys and become worried about us. See there? He's thoughtful. He's thinking about his dad. And he wants to make sure that his dad's not worrying. He's going, you know what? We've been gone for a while, and my dad is going to stop worrying about the donkeys, and he's going to be worrying about us. Let's go back. I don't want my dad to start worrying. That's thoughtfulness. You also want that. That's a good quality. Young ladies, again, that's what you're looking for, a man who's thoughtful. Not just about you. You go, well, yeah, as long as he's thoughtful and remembers my birthday or Valentine's Day or, anniversaries and, brings me gifts and chocolates and all those things. No, we're not just talking about that kind of thoughtfulness. We're talking about the fact that he's aware, he's considering others. Remember Philippians chapter 2? Consider others as better than yourself. Esteem them as better than yourself. Remember that? Well, here, Saul has that kind of a heart. He says, my dad's going to start to worry, let's get back. But he doesn't stop there. Verse 6, and he said to him, look now. Here's what the servant says. He replies, there is in this city a man of God, and he is an honorable man. All that he says surely comes to pass. So let us go there. Perhaps he can show us the way that we should go. So there's a man of God in this town. Maybe he can tell us which way to go to find our donkeys. Verse 7, then Saul said to his servant, again, thoughtfulness, but look, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread in our vessels is all gone. We're out of food. And there is no present to bring to the man of God. What do we have? He's thoughtful. He says, I don't want to just show up to this man of God just asking for favors, and I got nothing to give the guy. So, what are we supposed to do? He's thoughtful. Again. Well, verse 8, the servant answered Saul again and said, look, I have here at hand 1/4 of a shekel of silver. I got 1/4 of a shekel. I will give that to the man of God to tell us our way. Now, we'll get to verse 9 in just a moment. It's a little bit of an explanation, but I need to point something out briefly. It's a little bit, just slightly comical. Saul is a mighty man of valor. He's choice. That means he's special. He's tall, handsome, smells like Dolce & Gabbana. And he shows up to this city and doesn't have a penny to his name. He's poor as a church mouse. He's got the looks, he's got the height, he's the mighty man of valor, he's special, there's nobody, better looking than him, but he ain't got no money. And then it's so bad, so embarrassing that the servant has more money than he does. Servant's like, oh, wait a minute, I got a 1/4 shekel in here. And Saul's standing there with like empty pockets, man. He's pulling lint out of his pockets. Like, I got nothing. I don't have anything to give this guy. He didn't even have food left. He goes, man, we don't even have bread. We can't even bring the guy bread. Just keep this in mind. Money is important. It's just not that important. What is more important is to serve the Lord. What's more important is to have a servant's heart, is to be thorough, to be thoughtful. Now, in verse 9, we get this explanation here from the author, and this has bearing on what we're going to read in just a few verses. So let me read this, and I'll explain. Verse 9, formerly in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, when a man was trying to seek God for something, he spoke thus, he spoke this way, come, let us go to the seer. Let's go ask the seer. And then he tells us here, for he who is now called a prophet was formerly called a seer. So it's just a little bit of insider info for you and I as we study the Bible. We'll see why in just a moment, but just so you know, Samuel is a prophet, And if you hadn't figured out yet, that's who they're going to look for, the prophet. But at that point, at the time of this writing, they were calling him a prophet. But before that, they used to call him a seer. You go, what's a seer? Seer is somebody who can see what God desires or see into the future as God reveals the future. In other words, a prophet. So that's who they're going to look for. Now, this brings us to our second main division, which I told you already is seeking, verses 10 to 27. And we begin with a seeking of Samuel. Verses 10 to 14, they're seeking Samuel. Verse 10, then Saul said to his servant, say that 3 times fast, well said, come let us go. So they went to the city where the man of God was. As they went up the hill to the city, they met some young women going out to draw water and said to them, is the seer here? Oh, there it is. They're looking for the prophet Samuel, but at that point they still called him a seer. Is the seer here? And they answered them and said, yes, there he is, just ahead of you. He's just up the road. Hurry now. For today he came to this city, because there is a sacrifice of the people today on the high place. As soon as you come into the city, you will surely find him before he goes up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he comes, because he must bless the sacrifice. Afterward, those who are invited will eat. Now therefore go up, for about this time you will find him. Now we'll pause there for just a moment and let me point something out. Some of you have been around since we started 1 Samuel, obviously 8 chapters back, and we know that there was a priest. Anybody remember the name of the priest? He had 2 sons. Anybody? What was it? That's very, very close. Eli. Eli was the priest, and he had 2 sons, Hophni and, I'm sorry? What? Yes. Thank you very much. Phinehas. He had 2 sons. Anybody remember what happened to them? They all died. The 2 sons died in battle. Dad heard about the ark, and he fell back and broke his neck and died. But remember, God had actually warned them. Eli knew that his sons were going to die because they were corrupt. And so God had said, that's it, done with those guys, there's no turning back. I'm going to eliminate them. They're going to both die on the same day. And he did just that. And then their dad died on the same day. And then one of them, their wife, died on the same day. Why did they all die? They died because they were corrupt. Eli was not as corrupt, but he wouldn't rein his sons in, didn't make any of those changes, and so he died also. Here's the point that I'm making. What happens in verse 13 is that Samuel shows up to perform some of the priestly duties. Samuel's not a priest. He's a prophet. But he's performing some of these priestly duties, showing up for the sacrifice in order to bless the food. The people are waiting for him. Why is Samuel there? Well, Samuel's there because the priests are all gone. They've been eliminated. Why were the priests eliminated? Because the priests were corrupt. Here's a simple point. Point is this, that you and I must never think that we are so important to the Lord that we can live however we want and expect him not to judge us. Here's the truth. The truth is, any of us can be replaced. And God can replace us like that. Should something happen to me and I'm gone, God could immediately bring somebody in here that will probably do a much better job than I do. We must never think that we are so special, so privileged. As the 2 sons were of Eli. We're the priests. Nothing. We're untouchable. God touched them, and they never came back from it. And so God replaces them and brings in this guy, Samuel. So you and I make sure that we're taking heed to that warning. Now, it says this, they're telling him you should, go up right now in verse 13. In verse 14, so they went up to the city. As they were coming into the city, What a coinkydink. There was Samuel coming out toward them on his way up to the high place. So as they're walking into the city, it just so happens that here comes Samuel, the guy that they're looking for, but they don't know who he is yet. They don't know who he is yet. Now, at this point, we change focus. The focus is no longer on seeking Samuel. Now we're seeking Saul. And this is just like the Lord, to make what we would call a divine appointment. He's orchestrating things. The guy that they're looking for just so happens to be in the land of Zuph. Remember, that's where they were. So it just so happens that where they were searching for these donkeys and they run out of bread and run out of resources, it just so happens that Samuel the prophet is actually right here in this city. Oh, what a funny thing. And it just so happens that he just walked by the well where the women were getting ready to draw water. And the lady said, oh, yeah, he just passed by. He's right up the road there. Just go look for him. And it just so happens that as they walk into the city, that guess who's coming around the corner? Samuel walking toward them. And those are not just so happens. There's no such thing as coincidence or luck with the Lord. He's orchestrating all of this. Why? Because Saul thinks he's looking for donkeys, and in the process of looking for donkeys, he's looking for Samuel, and he doesn't know who Samuel is. He just hears about him. But the whole time, unbeknownst to him, God was looking for him and drawing him to that place. You start to wonder, so did God chase the donkeys away so that he could go searching and then end up at Zuph? And what happened? Listen, God was orchestrating the entire thing. That's what God does. He specializes in that. So it wasn't a coincidence. It wasn't luck. It wasn't any of that. It wasn't accidental. God was orchestrating the whole thing. Now here's what happens in verse 15. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before Saul came, saying, tomorrow about this time I will send you a man from the land of Benjamin, and you shall anoint him commander over my people Israel. He's going to be the king. That he may save my people. Listen to these words. That he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines, for I have looked upon my people because their cry has come to me. Now, Samuel already knew that God was going to send a king. He finds out the day before this that I'm going to send you a guy about this time tomorrow. He speaks to him in his ear. And I love what God says, that he may save my people from the hand of the Philistines. See, God knows that his people are in trouble with the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people because their cry has come to me. That is awareness on the part of God. God is aware. He's aware of your crying. He's aware even of your complaining. He's aware. He was aware of his people there. God's saying, I know what they're asking for. I hear them. Their cry has come to me. I love that. That God listens to me when I'm crying out to him, even when I'm complaining. The people were complaining. And so he's going to bring an answer to their cry. But it may feel like for you that you're crying out to the Lord, but you're not hearing an answer. You go, he's not doing anything. He's doing something. He's working. And he's preparing on all fronts. You may ask, God, please give me $1 million. I really want to, pay off the house for my mom and dad, or I want to, drive a Maserati, or whatever it is that you're thinking. And I don't, whether God will give you $1 million or not, I don't know. But you may think to yourself, what I'm asking for, I'm ready, God, give it to me. No, you're not. Because if you were, God would give it to you. You're not ready. That's why you're not getting it. And it may be that God is going to give it to you, but he's making you ready to get it. You go, what are you talking about? Well, maybe he wants to bless you with whatever it is that you're asking for, but maybe if you get it right at that moment, maybe you'll misuse it, mistreat it. And so maybe he's waiting until your heart is in the right condition, and he's going to get your heart into that right condition so that he can give you what you need. and so that you'll see it in its proper form and go, you know what, no, I needed this. Not just a want, I needed this. And God, I thank you. But the people were not there yet, not quite ready. They are now, and so God is in the process of doing that. So in verse 17, I love this exchange. So when Samuel saw Saul, say that 3 times fast, the Lord said to him, there he is, the man of whom I spoke to you. This one shall reign over my people. Now, I don't know, what Samuel's initial thought was, but as God speaks to him and he looks up and sees Saul, Saul is tall, handsome. There is no one more handsome. He's a mighty man of valor. He's special. He's got all the qualities. And I wonder if Samuel must have seen him and here he comes. Samuel doesn't seem to act that way. Here's what happens in verse 18. Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, here's what Saul says, please tell me, where is the seer's house? Now the seer is Samuel. He says, where's the seer's house? I love this in verse 19. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi right here. Samuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place. Remember when Luke first met Obi-Wan Kenobi? And he's like, wait, you know him? And he goes, of course I know him. He's me. It's like, they reminded me of that. Anyways, verse 19. So he said, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago, do not be anxious about them, for they have been found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on you and on all your father's house? What? What is all that? Understand something. We read the Bible and oftentimes we go, well, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. That doesn't, it's weird, but it's not weird because it's the Bible and the Bible's weird. Understand that these are just 2 human beings here having an exchange. Saul has never in his life seen Samuel. Samuel has never in his life seen Saul. This is the first time they're seeing one another. Up to this point, Saul has no idea who Samuel is. Remember, it was the servant who said, hey, there's a man of God in this town. We should go see him. Remember that? Now, Saul has been out walking the mountains and walking the land. 4 different locations that he's been to, searching. And did you notice what Samuel said in verse 20? But as for your donkeys that were lost 3 days ago. He's been wandering around the wilderness for 3 days. What does he smell like? What does he look like? By the time he gets to the city, he doesn't have bread. He doesn't have a penny to his name. The servant is better off than him. He walks into the town, doesn't know who Samuel is. He looks him right in the face and says, hey, can you tell me where the seer is? Samuel, being a classic prophet, how does he respond? He says there, I am the seer. Doesn't give him a chance to say anything else because he says, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, for you shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. He just immediately responds to Saul, I'm the guy you're looking for. Go up the mountain. You're going to eat with me. You can't leave tonight. You'll leave tomorrow. And then tomorrow I'm going to tell you everything that's in your heart. And then he goes on to tell him in verse 20, I know about your donkeys. They've been lost for 3 days. Don't be anxious about them. They've already been found. In other words, never mind. And then he asks him 2 questions. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? In other words, who is the one person that all of Israel is hoping, placing their hope in? Who is that? The desire of Israel. Who's Israel desiring? Who do they want? Who are they hoping for? And then he says in verse 20, is it not on you and on all your father's house? It's just like the combo, man. He just gets the guy, against the, in the corner against the ropes and just like, he's just lighting this guy up. I'm the guy you're looking for. Go up the mountain. You're going to eat with me tonight. No, you can't leave tonight. I'll let you leave tomorrow. But tomorrow I'm going to tell you everything that's in your heart. And by the way, forget about your donkeys because they've already been found. And by the way, aren't you the person that Israel is placing all of their hope in? They don't even know each other. They barely met each other. At this point, there's no indication that Saul even knows his name. He walked in and said, hey, he didn't say, can you tell me where Samuel lives? He walks in and he says, can you tell me where the seer lives? I don't think that the servant knew his name either. They don't even know each other. And you might read that and go, well, you know, what's the Bible? It's weird. No, it's just weird, period. It's not the Bible. It's just strange things. But what is happening? What is happening is that God is already in full control here. He's already orchestrating everything. And there are no chance meetings and luck or happenstance or accidental or what a coinky-dink. There isn't any of that. God is sovereign. God is orchestrating this. This is the first king of Israel. He's in total control here. And Samuel is aware of God, sensitive to God, and he's following God's lead. And there's no time to waste. Just go up there. You're going to eat with me tonight. He's in total control. That's God orchestrating things. He's aware. And so in verse 21, Saul answered and said, finally, he says, am I not a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel? And my family, the least of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Why then do you speak like this to me? Finally, Saul gets to say something. He says, don't you know who I am? Now listen, he says, don't you know who I am? He says, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin. We are the least significant tribe among the Israelites. He says, and by the way, my family are the least significant in the tribe of Benjamin, which is the least significant tribe. So why are you talking to me like I'm going to do something, like I'm somebody special? There's a wonderful note that you and we need to take note of this, and it is this. He says, I'm one of the smallest tribes of Israel. My family is the least of all the tribes, of the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Why are you talking to me like this? Because you are from the smallest tribe, and because your family is the least of that tribe, of the smallest tribe. That's why I'm talking to you. Because that's what God so often does. You know, sometimes we wonder, God, why can't you just save T Swizzle, man? If you would just save Taylor Swift, you know, she talks to the masses, to millions, you know, she has concerts and she fills up stadiums, you know, thousands and hundreds of thousands, and people worship her and they just think that she's the greatest. And God, if you would just save her, then she could use her voice and her influence to tell the whole world about Jesus. Yes, she could. Would she? You see, that's the problem. Is that, sure, God can save whoever he wants to save, and can he save a celebrity and use a celebrity? He absolutely can. The problem is, for the celebrity, is letting go of the glory. Can they let go of that glory that they've got in a death grip? Can they let go of it and give it to God? You know, because celebrities, you may not realize this, but celebrities are some of the most needy people that you will ever know. They need the glory in order to feel fulfilled. They need that glory from people in order to feel complete, to feel like they're somebody, like they have an identity. And without that, they're empty. And so for them to let go of it and say, you know what, it's not about me anymore, now it's all about God, is nigh impossible for some of them. Remember the rich young man who came to Jesus and said, you know what do I need to do to enter the kingdom of God? He said, well, you know, you got to do X, Y, Z. He says, well, I already do those things. Oh, well, there's one more thing you got to do. You got to sell all your goods and give your money to the poor. The guy went away sad. I can't do that. I can't give up my money. I can't give that up. Couldn't let go of it. It wasn't just the money, it was the prestige that went with it, the prominence, the position that he had. I can't give that up. He couldn't give that up, and the Bible says that he went away sad. It's hard. It's difficult for people to give up that allegiance to themselves, that glory. You have to be willing to glorify God. And so what does God oftentimes do? What does he do? He searches, looks around, finds the least significant. We might say the most insignificant. And he'll get them and use them. Why? Because nobody would see them and go, oh man, you're such a fantastic person. When he takes the least significant and uses them in wonderful ways, what happens is people go, why you? I don't know. I have no idea. But through someone who's insignificant, people will glorify God rather than glorifying the person. They'll go, you know what? No, I know you. You're a loser. It must be God. It must be God doing the work. That's exactly what we want. God, you take the glory. I don't want it. It's yours. You have it. And so that's what's going on here. That's exactly, he answers really as he's asking the question there, why then do you speak like this to me? That's why. Because you're the least significant, from the least significant tribe. Now Samuel in verse 22 took Saul. I don't know if he ever answered him. It's not recorded for us. He didn't answer Saul's question. It's kind of like, we ain't got time for all that. Just let's go. Verse 22. Now Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the hall and had them, look at this, sit in the place of honor among those who were invited. There were about 30 persons. Sound strange? Yes, because it is. Nobody in there knows Saul. Him and his servant just walked in. No bread in their vessels. A quarter of a shekel in the servant's pocket. They've been walking around for 3 days through the hills and through the forests and wherever they were, the wilderness. What do they smell like? What do they look like? And all of a sudden, hey, come on into this hall. And then in fact, those 2 seats over there, those are for the important people. You go sit in those seats. What? What is going on? And so that's exactly what happens. And I mean, it just gets better here. And it says in verse 23, and Samuel said to the cook, bring the portion which I gave you, of which I said to you, set it apart, save this. So the cook took up the thigh with its upper part and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, here it is, what was kept back. It was set apart for you. Eat, for until this time it has been kept for you, since I said I invited the people. So Saul ate with Samuel that day. This is the first time they've ever met. I don't know if they've even exchanged names yet. It's not recorded for us. You know, nice to meet you, my name's Saul. Nice to meet you, my name's Samuel. I don't know. Maybe it took place on the way up. You know, it seems like they must have exchanged names at least. But here is Saul. He's just come in, off of, from the wilderness. And the next thing he knows, this old man is telling him, you're going to go up the mountain. You're going to eat with me. No, you can't leave tonight. You're staying here. And by the way, you're going to be the next king of Israel. And, go sit down in that seat. Here's a steak. Get busy. What? It's just, again, boom, 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 boom. God's got it all orchestrated. But did you hear what Samuel said? It was kept back. It was set apart for you. For until this time, it has been kept for you. I knew you were coming. God orchestrated it. Now, verses 25 through 27 are transitional for the next chapter, but let's read them. When they had come down from the high place into the city, Samuel spoke with Saul on the top of the house. They arose early, and it was about the dawning of the day that Samuel called to Saul on the top of the house, saying, get up, that I may send you on your way. And Saul arose, and both of them went outside, he and Samuel. As they were going down to the outskirts of the city, Samuel said to Saul, tell the servant to go on ahead of us. And he went on. But you stand here a while, that I may announce to you the word of God. He's about to tell him what God has to say to him. He also told him earlier in verse 19, I will let you go and will tell you all that is in your heart. I'm going to tell you what's in your heart. You're not going to tell me what's in your heart, Saul. I'll tell you what's in your heart. I'm going to tell you what God's going to do. This is classic God orchestrating everything. He's in total and full control. As you and I close out and get ourselves out of here in just a couple of minutes, we need to remember some things as we split, as we leave here. And that is that, I know what God has called me to do. This is my spot right here on this dingy carpet that I'm standing on. This is my place. This is what God has called me to do. Many of you do not know what God has called you to do yet. And I know that's a concern for some of you. Many of you at times will say, you know what, I just want to know what God wants me to do. Where does he want me to go? You know, what does he have for me? What's my calling? And I understand that's a concern for you. And that's a good concern. It's a good concern. I want you to keep Saul in mind. Again, at this point in his life, what was he doing when God called him? When God revealed to him who he was going to be? What was he doing? He was looking for his dad's donkeys. Not his own donkeys, his dad's donkeys. He was serving thoroughly and thoughtfully. This is a biblical principle. Do you want to serve the Lord? Do you want for him to give you your calling in your life? Do you want to know what he has for you specifically? I mean, we know what his general calling is for us, right? We know that we're supposed to worship him and serve him and love him and talk to others. So we know those general things. But what about his specific calling? What does he have for you? Listen, God will reveal that to you when you're ready. You go, well, I am ready. No, you're not. Because if you were, God would tell you. But he's getting you, don't worry, he's getting you ready. So I'll tell you, this is what you do in the meantime. You do what Saul did. Serve. If dad says, mom says, hey, you need to go pick up after the dog out there, man. It's piling up. There shouldn't be, oh, but can I do that tomorrow? Oh, but let me just finish this. Oh, but can you please give me a little bit of time? Or, oh, but can't you have my brother or my sister do it? No, you do it. You get up, you do it. Don't ask any questions. Put your Game Boy down, get up and go. And just do it without question. That's what Saul did. And then when you get up and you do it thoroughly. Get all of it picked up, whatever it might be. Clean your room or wash the car or clean the garage or sweep the back patio or wash the dishes or wash laundry, whatever it might be. It's the daily mundane menial tasks. What was Saul doing? Saul wasn't out on some, glory trip, going out to, go speak to the masses. It was him and a servant walking the hills and the mountains and the countrysides looking for donkeys. Imagine that. Ladies, between here in the Fee and the Dino, San Bernardino, there are some hills out there in Moreno Valley. There is a canyon that cuts through from the 60 freeway over to the 10 freeway. It's called Ritchie Canyon. You go through that canyon. It's a dry canyon, dusty canyon, kind of a cowboy little canyon. Lots of people live in there, but there are wild donkeys, herds of wild donkeys. I mean, so many wild donkeys. You go through there, and it's just a 2-lane road, and sometimes it's a shortcut from all the traffic unless the donkeys decide to cross the road. Because there are so many of them that at times they'll just decide they're going to walk out into the middle of the road. And then what they'll do also, and they're just taking their time, and then sometimes they'll go to the bathroom right on the road just to let you know that they're in charge. And you got to wait for them. Traffic has to stop both ways. And it's just the hills, the mountains are actually called the Badlands. You can go out a little bit further east and you can cut across from the 60 out into Redlands. There's wild donkeys out there also. I mean, how many of you young ladies, if you were looking for a husband, would be out there in the Badlands? Oh, what's that guy doing? Following those donkeys. I think he'll be my next husband. None of you would do that. Even if he was tall, handsome, smelling like Dolce & Gabbana. But he's following donkeys? Nah. I'll keep shopping. I'll keep shopping. I'll keep looking. But that's who God was looking for. That's who he was looking for. Why? It wasn't just the tall, it wasn't just the good looking, it wasn't just the mighty man of valor, it wasn't any of those things. It was this servant's heart that Saul had here at this point in his life. I keep saying that because later on in a later study, I'm going to make the point that he no longer has a servant's heart. How you start is not as important as how you finish. Keep that in mind. Nobody would be looking for the next king of Israel out there. And yet that's exactly where God was looking. When I serve, I want to serve thoroughly, and I want to be thoughtful. I want to consider others. I want to be thoughtful about what does God want and what do these other people want. I want to be thoughtful. If I'm going to hear from God, I want to have myself in the best possible position, and the best possible position to hear from God is to find myself serving him thoroughly and thoughtfully. Just do what he says. Do what you're told. And again, it's the menial, mundane things. What was Saul doing? He was serving his dad. Serving his parent. That's where you and I start. We just start right there. Just doing whatever we can for our parents, for our siblings, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, neighbor, teacher, whoever it is that's around you, just right where you're at. You don't have to go find a mission field out in the Philippines or take off to Timbuktu. You don't have to do that. Just serve right where you're at. Just do whatever's asked of you without questioning, without fighting, arguing, making deals, haggling. Well, give me a little bit more time. You want to hear from the Lord? Just serve. Just serve. Just be quiet and just serve. And let God do what he wants to do. And in the process of that, what you will find is that God will lead you and direct you. And he doesn't have to tell you. He can lead you wherever he wants. But you'll end up in a place one of these days and you'll go, wait a minute, this is my ministry. What am I doing here? And you'll look back and you'll see, oh, it started with just serving, sweeping, helping mom out, helping dad out, cooking dinner or washing the dishes or whatever it was. But those of us, and I can tell you from experience, those of us that fight and, it's not my night for dishes, and why can't they ever do them, and why do I have to sweep, and why do I have to wash the car, and why do I have to pick up from the dog? Those individuals never find out what God wants because they don't care. And then what happens is because they never find out what God wants, they wander. They just wander through life, never really knowing what direction they're going and whereas what's the plan, what point does my life have, or what's the meaning, and they just never figure it out because they're so concerned and consumed with themselves. But not you and I, right? We want to be godly. We love the Lord. So what we're going to do is we're going to start serving, man, the way that Saul did, thoroughly and thoughtfully. And the last thing is, who does God choose? He chooses the least significant. I want to make sure that I'm not thinking highly of myself. Not too highly, just highly. What's so significant about me? Nothing. I want to see myself, I want to view myself properly in God's eyes. Compared to God, who am I really? And I want to let God use me and keep that humble attitude. Father, we're so very thankful for this passage and for your word.